So as Professor Pansera said, I'm a PhD student from the University of Bologna, student in anthropology, and I'm working on circular economy from anthropological perspective. And thanks so much for inviting me. Thanks so much, Professor Amir, for making this actually possible. I'm very excited to be here actually to talk with you all. That's why I figured out to do maybe a shorter presentation to leave the room for discussion. Because I'm very interested in knowing your point of view, your perspective. So my PhD research, Circular Economy Network, focus on a specific case study related to the circular practice of food recovery. This specific case study is a voluntary association called Recupero Solidale, in short, RESO. And the point of my research is framing this case from, like I said, the theoretical perspective of cultural anthropology. RESO is a voluntary association based in Empoli, Tuscany, central Italy, and it takes basically packaged damaged food or food that are near the expiration date from the great distribution and give it to other voluntary associations to help people in need. In its 20 years of activity, RESO was able to build a trans-municipality-wide network that led RESO itself to be presented as a good circular practice at the European Internet Project 2020. My aim is to contribute to the debate over the following research question: what a human-centered circular society would look like? A question that opens up several others, like which values imbue this circular practice, which actors can lead us to a circular society, and what are the day-by-day activities that characterize this transition, excuse me, as well as the role of policies and institutions in enable or disable specific processes. In my opinion, I think that the analysis of this ethnographic case can give us interesting insight to formulate different answers to this question, but we will see. So, what we are going to talk today. This is the table of contents. What can anthropology say about the circular economy? I think that it would be interesting for you to hear what this discipline has to say. Then some insight from the field. So, as you know, ethnographic study, the research in anthropology can lead to interest observation that derive from first-hand material. Then I will briefly explain the case of Italy and its relationship with circular economy. And then we will begin with the proper ethnographic case of Recupero Solidale. I will focus on the part that, in my opinion, could be very interesting, the focus of their work, so how they work as a human-centered circular practice, and then a conclusion that will give the floor to questions and other observations. So let's start with what can anthropology say about circular economy. As we all know, the ethnographic sensitivity that characterizes anthropological research probably sounds very useful, actually, in bringing out aspects usually not addressed in the mainstream debate on circular economy, such as the importance of collective participation and social justice, or the contradictions in the application of circular models, and the human dimension, as we know, and the informal circular strategies applied by local communities of practice. Within the heterogeneous field of circular economy critical studies, anthropologists were able to give three-dimensionality to these critiques, showing how much circular initiatives are entangled in complex web of material and immaterial relations. The qualitative-driven ethnographical method, rooted in day-by-day participation in community activities, exposes the researcher to the patch nature of circularity. In fact, most of the anthropological literature moves, like I said, from first-hand material and in-person observation. This closeness to complexity generally leads anthropologists to watch with skepticism and at the simplifying models of circular economy that we find often in circular records. We all know what we are talking about. I mean, all they are theoretically perfect and they are very simple and with this blind optimism. They are not taking into account the problems and criticalities and the, like I said, the let's say, fuzzy nature of circular practice. Here, for example, this photo that we see is the sorry for the terrible pronunciation in Chinese, circular economy park, probably you know, in the Guangdong. It was interesting because it was a research of two anthropologists, Laura Wainwright and Ivan Schultz. You know them. That's an ethnography on this circular economy park. So how it was framed from the policy, from the records, official record point of view, it was an incredible initiative, actually. It was to get rid of the problem of e-waste. So one of the core problem of the, the butterfly diagram of the Allen McCarthy Foundation we are very accustomed to. But doing ethnography there, the researcher discovered how basically there was an informal circular economy already present in the Guangdong of e-waste pickers that were like informally make a living with these activities. The circular economy park erased this informal activity and reabsorbed these workers in this park. But now the profits were in the hand of a small group of entrepreneurs. So both the anthropologists say to us to look with skepticism, at what seems too good to be true circular economy initiative. And it's interesting because this research echoes in a bit the report, the Factories, a German group just published, I think this year, maybe 2023, about the impossibilities of circular economy, framing both the physical impossibilities, so thermodynamics impossibility, the capacity to completely close the loop, as we know, it's possible, and even the more shadowy social aspects that are not addressed. This is a very extreme, in my opinion, example of what can we do if we are not aware of what of the greenwashing power of circularity, actually. There are other interesting research. Maybe I can, just for the good of saying, another interesting research about that same themes is the one about Brian Berry, the anthropologist Brian Berry. It's an interesting focus group on the different dimension of justice in a circular economy initiative, showing how basically the current circular economy paradigms. Basically, when I talk about circular economy paradigms, I talk basically about the different paradigm we frame, the United States paradigm and the European one and the Chinese one. They are more the, like we say, the more famous. We want to talk about paradigms, and in my research, I focus about the European one. But it was interesting to see how what she called the neoliberal justice was the most important and present in this focus group. So a justice that tried to find individual solution for collective problem. They look at quantity over quality. For example, circular economy creates lots of workplace, but at the same time, we don't know the quality of this workplace as well. So, and how they frame basically the big actor frame circular economy as a model that is just by design. So we assist at the process of depoliticization of this paradigm. For all these reasons, anthropologists naturally feel more at ease with the critical studies of circular economy, basically for this reason of being exposed to this complex nature of circular initiative. I think this, I'm sorry for the whole text, but I think that this quotation, I think they sum up really well the critical position of most of anthropologists that work in the critical studies of circular economy. As you can see, again, Bolin are two anthropologists that work on a reflect on the concept and basically say that there is little room for small entrepreneurs, and it's still, there is a discourse that is dominated by recycling. So it's a circular economy dominated by recycling, since it's where the economic interest of the main actor lies. And third, circular economy thinking is being concerned with the recycling, tended to prioritize resource efficiency, faster loops, and the disassociation of material from the user. Circular economy thus becomes more of a conceptual continuation of the modern linear production system than a break with it. So, as you can see from this aforementioned example, the future draw conclusion and broad consideration on circularity from this in-depth observation. The thing that I think is interesting is that anthropological research offers a glimpse into a plurality of initiatives and an open-up narrative that made us think about a macrocosm of circular practice. They have a unifying paradigm itself, a singular circular economy of the concealed, like I say, major force and political interest. So I think it's interesting to think about who is promoting so a unifying vision of circular economy. And then we focus on Europe. This brings us to Europe and especially to Italy. According to the Circular Economy Network, the CEN, that is a group of enterprises and organizations that work to sustain the transition to the circular economy, Italy can be considered the most circular European country by date. In a certain way, Italy embraced the circular challenge, and it was actually able to partially embody that circular dream proposed by Europe. So a technology-driven and recycling-focused circular paradigm sustained by an optimistic narrative, by a specific socio-technical imaginary where economic growth and environmental sustainability can coexist thanks to technological innovation. The circular economy trend that you see there, the number, was represented through a set of 7 indicators based on the application of the Villaggio Charter. The overall indicators are the following. So waste recycling rate, then we say there is the utilization of materials from recycling, the resource productivity, the waste production and material consumption, the share of energy from renewable resource, the level of repair of goods, and the soil consumption. Like we see from this slide, Italy's positive circularity performance arises mainly from the high recycling rate. That is 72% over compared to the Europe 553. And the productivity of research, the other full bar, namely is euros of GDP generated for every kilogram of resource consumed, is the other part that's going very strong. The focus on recycling, I want to say, is not bad for itself. The problem arises when the recycling process foreshadows all the other strategy for extended research life, all the other LFEs. Like Walter Stahel, yes.
Okay, just a question about the rate you said previously, indicator. So when you say it's, I think it's a second, no? So the amount of money.
Basically this is the result that the Circular Economy Network Observatory did for this report of circularity. The second, the resource productivity, is the one that you were asking of, things, right? So it's basically it's like if, the ratio between the euros of GDP generated for every kilogram of resource consumed. So for every kilogram of resource consumed, how much yield we generate.
It takes into account the different industries and the...
Yeah. It's like a whole. They take into account I think the most important industry in the construction and building sector, the industry, and there was also the transportation one. I can send you a short version of the report because I think it's interesting and problematic at the same time for a reason that I want to address. The thing that I want to actually that for me is important to say is that criticize super economy is not. There is a certain degree of criticism that could be very useful, and after that we have to really be aware of not, put everything aside without consider the importance of super economy itself. Like I said, I'm not against recycling. Say the problem is when the recycling process foreshadows all the other activities. When we don't think about alternatives, when we focus so much on striving for a single definition of super economy, in a moment so important because we know that super economy is a very young concept actually. If you think about Europe, 2013 actually, if the moment when the Ellen MacArthur Foundation framed the concept as it is, but at the same time, the super economy is also a very ancient concept because Walter Stael, that was one of the father of super economy as we know it, actually said something that circular economies, so plural, always existed, coexisting silently with the rapid development of the linear economy in the form of small repair shop, activity of craftsmen, mechanics, and generally the common sense of exchange based on the exchange of goods that are no longer, used. So from this perspective, I think that Recupero Solidale can be framed as an example of circular practice before circular economy itself was famous in a certain way. So the point was that let's not lose our focus on alternative. Let's not. Blossman and Brennan did an interesting research about circular economy as an umbrella concept, right? So they say that umbrella concept has this ability to create discursive space for things, this cognitive unity, discursive space. And in this discursive space, and this is, I'm quoting the embedding since an hour, there is room for alternatives. And this is, I think, the important thing. Let's maintain this room for talking about alternatives. Let's not just focus on a singular technology-driven circular economy. Let's see what we can obtain. Do you want? I'm sorry. Sorry, could you please remember your name?
Alex.
Alex. Okay. Thanks for your question. And I think that Reso, this ethnographic case study, can be framed as one of these alternatives. Now we will see why. Actually, here you say this is the sale neighborhood. It was just to give you some glimpse into the reality of this case study. This is it was the fruit and vegetable grain market of Empoli that was abandoned, completely abandoned. Then it was in 2004, this association won and started to use part of the abandoned warehouse. And now this place has come fully to life again. And this is the center of circular economy, of the circular economy network. So it's a very good story. And this bowl has become like the symbol, of the place that before was like the place where people go to buy vegetable and fruit, so to spend money. Now it's become the place from which vegetable, fruits, and goods, leave this place to go to the people in need. So, what is Reso? Reso is a voluntary association born by the desire of some COP employees. COP is one of the biggest supermarket chain we have in Italy and only in Italy. The desire of some COP employees to find a solution to all the kilograms of food they regularly chew. For this reason, 5 employee associations decided to work together founding Rete Solidale. Reso became an official association in 2004, finding in the abandoned street market warehouse its headquarters. Here you can say the warehouse. The association distinguished itself for being composed only by retirees, all people, only by retirees, and for being able to unite different and often clashing realities together and make them work for a common aim. We will see that. In less than 20 years, Reso was able to create a strong network with 35 associations and 17 municipalities, being considered one of the most precious circular initiatives on the territory. Actually, they won what is like called, we call that the Golden St. Andrew. It's like a prize, a local prize, the municipality of Empoli give to most important realities in their territory. But what being a circular initiative means practically, what are the circular parts? So Reso main activity is the recovery gear, like the old volunteers like to call it, and happen every week. On Tuesday, the volunteers prepare the goods collected the week before for the 35 association affiliated with Reso, collocating boxes with different types of food according to partners' request. On Wednesday, association representatives come and pick up boxes prepared by the volunteers along with food baskets. On Thursday, Reso receives goods, usually from Coop, but not only from Coop, and the products are sorted, cleaned, the packaging replaced or repaired, divided by type, and then packed in a box. The non-edible goods, like you saw on the holder, are repaired and sold during the charity market or given to those in need. This process is repeated relentlessly every week, and is a work of care that aims to restore value to the waste. Products arrive like in a state of limbo and no longer consumer goods because they cannot be sold anymore, but they are not waste yet. So they are like in this limbo.
But it's everything or just food?
It was mostly food. Sometimes there are also some, household appliance and other things that for house mainly. But then they repair and they sold in the solidarity market. They prepare like two times every year, and with this money they give to the association as well. But mostly food. It was interesting for me because I discovered this as like gradually, because I worked as a volunteer. It's part of my field work. So doing field work means living with them, staying with them, lifting heavy boxes for them, and these kind of things. And yeah, so I discovered that basically there was this other part where they repairing things. I have a photo there. It's very interesting actually because it was in an ex-ice storage. It was an ex-ice storage that became like the place where they repair things. So I frame this recovery gear as a ritual of care, where these discarded objects, without any economic values, come back to life filled with social values. And how much they care, even for the smallest things, how they put lots of efforts in cleaning and repairing the package, in finding the better way to arrange food and prepare food parcels. This is something that really moved me. I think it's something very interesting. There was more for me. It was not about the food only. It was something more. This is the boxes. And in fact, when I started my field work as a volunteer, I was confused how this voluntary work was not so different from other groups. So can be considered actually, this is my question for you, can be considered a circular economy initiative. for you, can be considered super economy initiative.
This is the question.
Yeah. Because it's a
This
question.
is actually my question. Is why do you really need to frame it in a circular economy for your PhD?
Well,
Theoretically, because you could apply. Okay, maybe this is the room for the material for the final discussion. What you're looking for here? You can apply alternative economies. You can apply any other caring concepts. Why you are so fixated with circular economy? Because it's overimposing something.
Yeah, that's a really good question actually, because when I started in the field, I was like, why everyone is talking about circular
But do
economy?
they frame themselves in terms of circular economy?
I remember that.
Okay.
Basically, it was that I was like so imbued with reports and eco design and this technical fantasies, where basically circular economy can do lots of things that seem like the volunteering work, like every other, groups I did a lot of volunteering. I was like, but this is circular economy. And then I started to, ask questions. Anthropology is someone that annoys people, basically. So I started to ask questions. Everyone was telling me that, yeah, Rezo is a circular economy issue. Everyone was sure about that. And then I started to look at narratives. And I'll look about how even the European paradigm is actually a narrative. There is a narrative behind the circular economic technicalities. There is an idea of future, there is an idea of society, there is an idea of economy. So I started to, something started to move. And I was like still confused. And they was telling me, yeah, Rezo is a circular economy initiative, not only because it recovers goods, the other one we discarded, but more importantly, because it helps sharing the recovery culture. And it was like, okay, that's interesting. What's this recovery culture is about? So start, okay, see, this is the office, for example. All you see there, sorry, briefly, it's actually recovered. The furniture comes from an hospital. The scaffolders comes from an abandoned, if I don't remember, supermarket, I think. No, from another hospital, actually. The one from a psychiatric hospital, the other one from a big hospital. So everything you see here is basically recovered. This is the office. The office is in the transport corridor. It was a transport corridor because it was this warehouse, and they built this office. So I started to dig in. I'm starting to. Volunteers gave me like this standard definition of circular economy, labeling as a practice to diminishing waste. But things were different when I asked them about the recovery culture. We were talking about the importance of recovery, to avoid wasting time and energy, in buying new things, and to always ask ourselves, what can we do with the current resources? Seeing how hard they were working to not discard anything. Example, food you cannot give away because sometimes they even produce some waste, but they try to find everything, to find a way to use everything. Even the food is not good anymore. What can we do? Maybe we can fertilize. Maybe we can find someone that needs it. So I was thinking that they were referring, when they talk about recovery culture, they were referring on the goods. Little time passed before I realized they were talking about everything, about objects, about spaces, like I said before, the vault was an ex-warehouse. And first of all, they were talking about people. If you think about it, Rezo volunteers are all retirees, old people. For some of them, being already in Rezo was easy. Some of them knew the association already, or were active, and wanted to participate in volunteering. But for others, it was a difficult path, out of the depression, out of loneliness, out of days spent alone watching the television. For everyone, Rezo was the chance to put their knowledge and experience into action again. There are lawyers, there are truck drivers, technicians. Those are all competence remain in silence that become useful again, actually. That's an example of how even knowledge can circulate, even immaterial, things can circulate actually. And those are like experience and competencies that were like used again for greater good. And this is, for example, here this room is where they actually create small objects for the solidarity market. And this is the cold storage I was talking when they repair things. It was very, unique actually, because you open this very heavy door and you go inside. There is a table that you can, be a table that you can disassemble, and they work there once in a week.
Yes.
So, as retirees can be considered as discarded people in a linear system that frames them as non-productive, there are other categories that are constrict at the age of our societies, like prisoners, for example. Recupero Solidale hosts a rehabilitation program for prisoners that can commute some hours of their sentence into community service. The volunteers take seriously the people involved, teaching them a job, a language, or helping them to get their driver's license, doing what they can to help the ex-convicts to not just accomplish their duties, but also to give them the tools to be part of society again. I didn't meet any of these people actually, but I heard a successful story, story of success with people working for improving their life, and their life does run even after they finish their duties. Another project that involved people is the collaboration between Reso and the Tuscanian Autism Center. Every Thursday, the association opens space for welcome 4 or 5 young adults, giving them a safe space where to pursue, handcraft activities and to have fun all together. Finally, Reso welcomes migrants and as volunteers in its association, providing a solid network for the people to rely on. As you can understand from this example, Reso is an example, is not just a food-focused, circular initiative. The idea to not discard anything or anyone, and no one should be left behind, is a core value that shapes this association action and is deeply connected to the volunteers' idea of circularity. That's the fact that really sparked my mind, because they actually frame this idea of not leaving no one behind as actually part of circular economy. So for them, circular economy is primary piece. From this, I think we started to understand how they see circularity and circular economy as a way to see the future, as a way to see society. So it's not just, but it's the same, in a certain way, it's the same that we find when we read the regenerative system, that put things in circle and look for how much as we can. So there is an idea of future, there is an idea of society. So this core value is actually what makes Recupero Solidale so persuasive and convincing. Despite we are talking of volunteering, collaboration between associations is not always easy and often could lead to conflicts and fights. Nevertheless, Reso's desire to help others and to not discard anything or anyone often translate in finding very pragmatic solution to problems without caring too much about affiliation. This may seem counterintuitive, but it's actually quite effective. Most associations that usually don't collaborate with each other can find themselves working alongside if it's Reso to ask. From interview with volunteers of the association that rely on Reso for the food parcel, imagine how the association is perceived as network or super partes. A group that is not interested in promoting a politicized vision of its work, but on the contrary, is able to make this association remember the core value that guide their action, helping others. Actually, I think that this is kind of problematic, because I don't think there can be, a de-politicization vision, a vision that could be actually de-politicized. But maybe we can talk about that. It's interesting that basically, Reso is framing himself as a circular economy initiative, suffer from the same, course of being perceived as no politicized, not like something pure and having actually an idea of society, an idea of future. This shared vision, by the way, is the common ground from which Recupero Solidale started to build its network. The network was nurtured by volunteers day by day, tireless effort to mediate between different and often clashing realities. In 20 years, the association was able, as I said, this trans-municipal full functioning network. Well, I don't want to waste your time with all the name of the municipality, but it's 70 municipalities and 35 associations. The networking took time, but paid off. And it can be considered the main characteristic of RESO, and the thing that probably is most interesting for us, for our debate. Because firstly, it orients the process of finding a specific solution. Every time there is a problem, like, for example, when instead of food, the association received like a ton of burgers, the first question was always, who could benefit from this? Or did I know anyone who can help me with this problem? So the network is the first things they relate on when you have to find a solution. And it became a tool to actually foster this circularity. Relying on a wide network of people we trust ensure goods to circulate and to be used, repaired, and reused again. It creates a circular flows of goods where subjects share resources, so food, drinks, household appliances, for example. To put it shortly, a wide network can extend the life of products, make them circulate. Thanks to this network, RESO played a vital role helping to manage the flow of goods during the pandemic. And also the flow of goods itself, RESO also helped more than 300 families that were excluded from food stamps. The point here that I want to address is that you cannot build something like that. It's very useful, actually, but you cannot build something like that from a day to another. It took them 20 years. And when there was the pandemic, this like day by day nurtured network activate in a way that was like never seen before, because it was actually fueled by municipality money for the first time, because actually they self-sufficient. And they did the incredible things. Like I said, they managed to help lots of people that were quarantined or they were lonely or ill. And they actually also opened a bank account. I don't know the exact translation, but basically, bank account, you can donate money and then they buy goods, and they started to help not just their territory, but all these municipalities. Here you can see chairs that was like built with and then we can see the two youngsters that are playing with all the pallets with the football in the ball, because near there is the like a school, after school young center. So can be considered a modest alternative. A circular economy like RESO is a circular economy, if you want to frame it, that acts by subtraction. RESO is interesting for what is not. It's not a technology-driven initiative. It's not characterized by fresh and young resources, because they are all old. It's not making visible changes in space where it operates, nor in the behavior of the association they are working. Yet its flexibility, its coherence and its tendency of doing the best with what we have separate a long-standing presence in the territory as well as self-sufficiency. It's interesting here. I don't know how much time I have. I don't know how much time I have, but
3 minutes ago you had 3 minutes.
Sorry. Okay. So just to close, RESO lives in a perpetual state of...
In the context of what is missing, no?
Sorry. So RESO lives in a perpetual state of crisis, like I said. I don't want to, make everything shiny. Lack of funds, the lack of new volunteers, the political isolation they are facing, and the micro conflicts within and outside the association. All these elements concur to weaken its already fragile equilibrium. The way RESO stays with the trouble, not because it wants it, but because it faced multiple obstacles, offer an interesting counter-narrative, in my opinion, to the blinding optimism that characterized you means circular economy department. So in your conclusion, no, sorry. Thank you, and I hope that there is